Hello. The New York Times is now delighted to present a Times Talks discussion, live here at the Niemeyer Center and live around the world on the web. The topics are the compelling new film, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. So please join us in welcoming New York Times media columnist David Carr and our very special guest, Sundance 2011 Best Director, Sean Durkin.
Hola, yo soy Gwyn Philbrook de The New York Times y estoy encantada de darles la bienvenida a todos aquí en el cine del Centro Niemeyer y por todo el mundo a través de la web. Y ahora les presentamos un debate sobre la película que ya hemos visto, Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene, con el columnista de New York Times, David Carr, y el director y guionista de la película, quien ganó el premio de Mejor Director en el Festival de Sundance, Sean Durkin.
Cheers. So how did you like the movie? La Primera, his first film. It's an amazing film, even if it is a little difficult to say. One of the things I was thinking about when I was watching the movie is there's a message in there that you can't outrun the past. The past is always with you. You may be in the present moment, but your past is there with you.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
When you were working on the film, were you thinking about the nature of memory, or is it? I mean, it's a movie about reassimilation. Yes.
Yeah. I thought a lot about memory and about how well, I spent a lot of time with somebody who had been through something similar, and so I started to understand the psychology of how she had processed what she had been through, and a lot of the memories were blocked out, and so it took her a long time to be able to realize what happened to her. And even when she realized sort of, on paper what had happened to her, she didn't emotionally accept it. So she could say, okay, this happened, but I don't feel like it actually happened. And that was very confusing to understand. So I thought at the core that was the film. So even if Martha starts to realize the events that happened, maybe she doesn't quite fully emotionally accept them.
How did you end up coming across this person who had an experience not exactly like this, but somewhat similar?
It was a friend of ours who we had known for a few years, and I just been talking about the film, and producer Josh had told her what we were doing, and she told him that she had been through something similar, and she was willing to share her story.
You did a fair amount of research into cults in general, yes?
Yeah.
And so when you think about cults and you see the experience of Martha in this film, you think, why would anybody ever get mixed up in something about that? What human need is being met?
I mean, I wanted to approach the film that came from a place where you tried to understand why somebody gets caught up. So, I had only seen things where immediately the cult leader is preaching and everybody's sort of wide-eyed and brainwashed. And I wanted to approach it because whenever someone joins, it doesn't look that way. It looks a little softer. It looks inviting in some way. It must, because nobody joins a cult. No one thinks they're joining a cult. So I wanted to just approach it in that nature. And I guess you also can't say really exactly what is being met. I mean, I guess there's some need for just belonging I think there's a natural human desire to belong to something larger than oneself, and I think a cult's an extreme example of where that gets manipulated.
Well, and when you watch the movie, I mean, it's a little bit of two movies, because when you're on the farm in certain stretches, it's really warm. It's really pretty. And then you get to the lake house where Lucy and her husband are, and it's quite chilly.
Yeah.
So you ended up shooting with two very distinct sort of moods, yes?
Yeah, definitely. And I wanted it to be, complicated. It's not like everything is all bad or all good on one side, because that's just not how it is. When someone leaves the situation, they know something bad has happened, that's why they've left, but they don't necessarily believe it or understand that it was bad, because they've also been told that everything before they joined was bad as well. So it's about creating a place where there's good and bad on both sides, and they're drawn to certain things about both sides, but also not fitting in with things on both sides.
That sort of begins with Patrick, the cult leader. There's parts of him that are attractive. You can understand. He's not your usual, you can't see the horns and tails. He's not El Diablo, right?
No.
You can see how he would draw people in.
Yeah, and I think you have to, because, again, it's her experience, so you have to understand why she was attracted to it. And I think the goal is always for the audience to be able to go with her on her journey. I mean, the film is about her journey. So, again, if you get there and he's, from the very beginning, there's nothing warm or inviting about him, then I don't think the audience goes with her.
Mm-hmm. One of the things I was sort of struck by is you understand what her recent experience has been, and we're both, the film sort of opens in that moment, but when you get to Lucy's house, her recent history is parallel tracked. But what went down between her and Lucy, between these two siblings, you leave sort of opaque. So what drove that? Because I found myself wondering after I watched the film, where did they come from? What happened to them? Where are their parents? And that's good, that a movie that makes you think after you leave the theater.
Yeah.
But the typical way in Hollywood is to, spoon feed the audience. Her identity crisis occurred early because her mom did X, her dad did Y. There's none of that sort of backfilling.
Yeah. Well, I didn't want to simplify it. I don't think you can say people who get involved in these groups are, if you gave her a reason of like, this is why she left home, this is a specific reason, it's too simple. I think that's too general. And so I didn't want to have anything be able to be dismissed as an answer. And in terms of not going back into their history, I just feel like with families, there's nothing I hate more than in movies when families get together and discuss things so that you clearly understand points about their history, because I don't think that's how families are, because everybody knows what happened because they were all there. So it just lives under the surface. So my goal was always to create enough under the surface and enough tension between them coming out in certain ways where whether you don't know, you may not know the exact details, but you at least get a sense of their history and their tensions, and that they are two different people. I mean, I'm fascinated by the idea how so many people have siblings that are just worlds apart. And I think that's really interesting, and I wanted to tackle that.
Yeah, and I liked that in the movie you stay in that natural, that you're right in that families don't turn to each other and sort of explain why they're acting like they're, in your movie, Lucy never turns toward the camera and says, yes, I'm blah, 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 and when mom and dad, blah, and they just stay very much, so there's a real naturalism to their relationship. Yet, in a way, it's a little bit of a horror movie, too.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. I love horror movies. I love, I love the build. I love the build up in thrillers and horror movies. I just hate when they get messy.
Right.
So and I also I just don't. I guess I love all different genres of films, but I don't think films need to be separated by genre. I think that if you have the ability to use certain elements of different types of filmmaking to tell the story and enhance the atmosphere, then you should use them and not worry about what type of film you're making, as long as it's serving the film that you're making.
Speaking of not getting messy, there's the end. There's the end of the movie, which it reminded me a little bit of No Country. Did you guys see No Country? No Country for Old Men, where right when things are sort of heating up, it just stops, or the end of The Sopranos, where Tony is walking, and it just stops. And in this one, I'm not spoiling, you all guys all, they're taking off, the car pulls in behind, and it just stops.
I love The Sopranos ending.
And I love the ending of your movie too. Don't get me wrong. I know. I hate when movies get tied up with the bow.
Well, I wanted to be true to where Martha was at. The film was an experience of going through her experience of those first couple weeks after she left, and you can't resolve these issues in that time. It's impossible. You can't resolve them in 2 years, not 2 weeks. I mean, it can take a lifetime. It can take 10 years, 5 years.
Or it could have been resolved 30 seconds after your movie ended, too.
Well, I guess you could go that way.
Yes.
But I just felt like that was the right place to end, and that the questions, that the audience might be asking are the same questions that Martha's asking.
Well, and the other thing is Martha was carrying the weight of the horror of what actually happened all by herself throughout the film. And Lucy and her husband really didn't know what was out there. So metaphorically, it's cool that they're driving along and they think they're taking Lucy to the Nut Ward or wherever they're taking her. And they don't really know what's coming up behind them.
Yeah, but neither does she.
She kind of does, though. I mean, if I'm remembering it correctly, she saw. Yeah,
but you don't know what was seen, for sure.
Boy, you're mysterious. Speaking of mysteries, let's talk about the name of the film. Can you guys say the name of this film? Let's just try it together. Okay, on 3. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. Okay, let's say it fast, really once. Martha, Marcy, May, Marlene. It's really hard. Why did you pick such a hard title for your movie?
It came very early. When I first started reading about cults, I noticed that everybody gets renamed right away.
Right.
And so you'd look at pictures, and under the picture it would be their name and their alias and some other alias and some other alias. And I knew I wanted to call her Martha, and then Marcy, May, Marlene just kind of rolled out, and then I put it together, and that's what it was. And obviously it's a talking point and something to debate whether it should be called that or not, but I always said I thought it was the core of the film, the core of the struggle with identity and the journey. I think it represents her journey, and I was always open to other suggestions, but no one ever made another suggestion.
Not one that you liked.
Well, actually, no one actually ever made
a schmucky Hollywood guy come and say, "Oh, don't name your movie that." No one will ever.
Yeah. Well, no, I mean, not really, because we're lucky enough to not have to deal with that. But no one ever suggested anything really. I was like, please do, go ahead, try. Like, I'm open. I'm a very collaborative, open person. But I just felt like it was the right name, and yeah, it kind of stuck.
So I want to talk a little bit about cults. One is the Tisch School at NYU. You're here with Antonio and Josh. You're longtime, well, a couple years collaborators. Did you guys, back when you were at the NYU school, did you say, yeah, and then we're going to make a movie that's going to get into Sundance, it'll be at Cannes, and it'll be after school, which will just kill everything in sight, and then we're gonna end up in Spain drinking cider, and it's gonna be great, man.
It's gonna be awesome. Yeah, pretty much. We pretty much drew out the whole thing.
So your plot to take over the world is pretty much right on schedule, right?
Yeah, it's going good. No, we just made we decided that we were going to support each other to make the films we wanted to make, and figure out how to do that. And we share everything and support each other, and that's what we had to do to get these films made. And that's all we ever think about is the work. And whatever happens, happens.
Was there some ceremony involving blood, or did you guys tie each other?
Yeah, we did that. We cut our hands and did that blood brother thing.
So, but just take us through the history. Will you guys just stand up for a sec? The producers, directors. Will you just walk us through the sort of history of your collaboration? Because if I do it, I'll probably goof it up.
Sure. Basically, we met, the three of us met our first year at NYU, and we immediately started making short films together. And we all felt like we wanted to use NYU to find our key crew and carry that over into the professional world. So we started making student shorts. We did find our crew, which is basically the crew we started using at school was the same crew that shot all of our films.
Right.
So when we got out of school, we had to figure out how to make money and not get jobs that would take away from our filmmaking. So Josh started to forge relationships at record labels, so we started to do music videos, and then Antonio had an opportunity to do a commercial, and so we started doing that stuff to pay the bills, and then we'd work in casting as well for our casting director, doing commercials and things, anything we could. And all that during that time, Antonio was writing after school, and then we got to a place where we were able to make after school, and then it was my turn, and then in between, then while I was writing Martha, we produced another film called 2 Gates of Sleep.
Plus, you made a short in there.
Yeah, and we made a bunch of shorts, and I guess
you made a short about cults.
Yeah.
That got into Sundance.
Yeah, the short in 2009 we were starting to consider making Martha. I'd been writing the script for a couple years, but it wasn't ready, and I hadn't directed anything since NYU. And there were good things about the film I made there, but not things that I thought I was confident that represented what I wanted to do. So we decided to make a short film that both could go with the feature, but can exist on its own. So I wrote a really simple short script based around Brady Corbet's character, who's sort of like the recruiter. And so the short is about how he brings one girl to the cult.
Right.
And then the short did well, and that really helped us raise money and get the film made.
And in terms of so you're like the Tres Amigos, right?
Yeah.
Do you maybe secretly hate each other underneath all this, or?
No, what's great is that we
just checking.
we started working together before we were friends. So it's not like getting together with your high school buddies and making movies, which would be complicated and weird. And so we became friends through work. So our friendship and relationship grew together with our working relationship. So we sort of figured everything out of how to work and how to deal with each other and all that stuff as we went.
But the switching of hats, and it reminds me of marriage, at least a good marriage, which is you trade the pants back and forth.
Definitely.
But the producer's role is very different than the director's role, and now you've occupied both. So I mean, do you end up collaborating as directors as well, or is this just pretty much your idea of the movie?
Well, yeah. I mean, when we're directing, we don't like stand over each other's shoulders.
Right.
But you know, there's tons of scenes in the movie that Antonio probably came up with. You know, or like you know, we were editing Antonio's new film recently. And we were watching a scene, and I was like, "Oh, I don't like that. We should change that." And he's like, "No, that was your idea," you know. So
his new movie is Simon Killer.
It's called Simon Killer, yeah.
And it was shot in Paris.
Yeah, shot in Paris right after we finished.
So you just set up a shoot in Paris. It's like, oh, I think we ought to shoot in Paris.
Yeah.
How'd that go for you?
I wasn't there. It went good for them though. Josh went like 2 weeks after we wrapped Martha. Went over there, started setting stuff up, and then everyone else followed a few weeks later, and they just kind of did it.
In terms of like working with, so you've known all these folks a long time, and Jody, who shot the film, is you know, makes beautiful pictures. But then it comes time to make your movie, and you cast, you know, John Hawkes, who you can see it partly because of his role in. Did you guys see Winter's Bone? Did you see that movie at all? He played Teardrop, but then it comes time to, you know, the person you're gonna hang the whole movie on.
Yeah. And
you give it to a young woman who's really never had a huge feature role.
Yeah.
So tell me how that happened.
Well, I wanted it to be an unknown actress. I thought it was really important, and so
how come?
I don't know. I just felt that. I just felt like the role, the way it was, it just needed to be someone that you didn't see and didn't have other associations with. I don't know. It was just something I felt. And we didn't overthink it. We just kind of decided that's what it was going to be. And we did it with After School. Antonio found Ezra Miller, and Ezra's having a great career now.
Right.
And it worked so well. And you know, we just sort of believed in it and did it. And we had open casting and tried to see every girl that we could. And Susan Shopmaker, our casting director, who's amazing, she always saves her, you know, favorite top 5 for the last day. So we went through this whole process and saw everyone, and then she brought Lizzie in on like the last day of casting.
That's a casting director's trick.
Yeah, of course.
keep your ace in the hole and play it at the end. So that's who you remember best.
So you know, she was one of her top picks, and then there was something happening in the audition that wasn't happening with other people, and I just had a feeling, and I think it's funny because when you set it up and you say, you know, you putting the movie on the shoulders of someone who's never, you know, really. I mean, she was shooting her first movie when we cast her, so she'd never done anything. It's scary, but I guess you don't really think about that. I think if you stop to think about that too much, it gets too overwhelming. So I just had a feeling about her and decided to go with her.
What's interesting about her is she's not famous, but she has this adjacency to a global kind of fame. Her sisters are the Olsen sisters, who kind of own American culture for a while. I mean, really, but they're like $1 billion business. But yet you see none of that sort of.
Well, she's her own person. I mean, it had nothing to do with it. I mean, I didn't know until a few minutes before the audition, and even then, it just doesn't matter because you see the best actress, and that's it. And so you can't stop and worry about any of that stuff because it has nothing to do with it.
In terms of, did you have fun writing the movie, or the opposite of fun?
Fun? Fun's a hard word to use to describe writing this movie. I don't know. I don't really enjoy writing that much.
No one does.
So
you're alone in a room.
Yeah.
There's a blank screen, a blinking cursor.
Yeah, it's horrible.
It's desperately
horrible
lonely,
process.
isn't it?
And especially, you know, I find myself, you know, listening to Patsy Cline looking at pictures of missing women online. And you're like, wow, the FBI is probably going to have a, tracker on this pretty soon if I don't turn this off. So it's not like a, it wasn't nice, but I don't know, you get invested, and you get invested in the things you start to care about, the people that you talk to, and you start to care about being accurate to their story and the emotion that they went through, and that's what really starts to drive it.
When you did you end up shooting the movie that you wrote? You said Antonio had some ideas, but is it pretty much what was on the page? Yeah, I mean, ideas in writing, because we share, scripts along the way, every draft. So, it actually is. You make adjustments while you're shooting because you have to logistically. So you focus it, and then you cut things, and you focus it, and you cut things, and then in editing you get crazy and try all sorts of different things that you never thought of, and then in the end it actually ended up being very much like the script. When you think of your lead character Martha, she was sort of damaged going before she met these cult folks, and sort of damaged on the way out. Did you feel at all hopeful for your character that she would find a place to put these things? Yeah, I do. I mean, there's something. I think she's actually strong but misguided, and I think that if someone's strong enough to escape, then I'm hopeful for them. Maybe it's too much of a metaphor, but you saw her again and again, sort of trying to find a way to live in this world and being confused about it. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's all that much different for anybody, really. I mean, we all come from cults called families, right? Yeah. And then you get out in the world and find that the rules that you played by don't necessarily obtain, right? Yeah. And so it's less about reassimilating than it is just assimilating in the first place. Sure. Where did you grow up? I grew up lived in England until I was 12, and then I moved to New York when I was 12. So. And was there anything about your family dynamics in this movie? Maybe you had a tortured, horrible childhood you'd like to share? No, I had a wonderful childhood. I had wonderful, loving, caring parents that I'm very close with and very supportive. So then where did this movie come from? What part of your sick, demented self did it come from? Well, when I was little, my mother used to scare the shit out of me and tell me lots of ghost stories. So I think it just comes from that. Now, I don't know. Well, there is a little bit of a ghost thing going on. I mean, where she looks, she kind of sees these. That's where the horror sort of comes from in this film, right? Yeah. I mean, I think anytime you write something, even though I'm not a woman who escaped a cult, there's always things that, that find their way in. I don't know what they are, or I sort of realize them afterwards, but I don't know. Your friend that had a somewhat similar experience, not the same experience, she didn't write her story. Has she seen the movie? Mm-hmm. And what did she think? It was hard for her at first, but then she sent me a really nice email about 12 hours later in the middle of the night, saying that she was really proud of it. And that must have been a little bit of a relief, because massive relief. Because, I mean, what she's sharing with you is it's not something you bring up on a first date. Oh, by the way, I was kidnapped by a cult. No. It meant everything to me that she said that. So what are all the Tres Amigos up to? What are you going to be doing going forward? Just try to keep making movies that we believe in.
we're all writing something. What was that? Cider. Oh, yeah, we're going to go drink some of that good cider that we had for lunch.
So you're going back to the cideria tonight?
Yeah. That's awesome. I love that. It was fun. We're all writing something. Josh is starting to write his first film, and I'm writing something new. Antonio's writing something new. We're editing Antonio's film, and we're just gonna keep going.
Are you good enough friends and collaborators so if Josh sent you something that you didn't think was working, you could call him up or email him, tell him, yeah, that was a nice try, but it sort of sucks.
Absolutely, actually. Yeah. I mean, I wrote so many shorts in school that just we never made. I probably wrote 15 short films that we never made because I give them to them and they just be like, That's good. I mean, we're really honest with each other. We have to be, and I think it's what allows us to do what we do and have the relationship we have. Like you said, it's like a good marriage.
Yes.
We're honest, we're open, and we tell each other the truth and help each other.
Now, this film was it made it into Sundance, and you were named Best Director, and I was there, and you were kind of the toast of Sundance. It also made it into Toronto, into Cannes. It's going to be
That's crazy.
New York Film Fest. Were you...
It's all downhill from here, right?
Yes. That's the thing about early success. You know, you find out that the star forward on your high school soccer team, the guy who had all the girls, is you're on the street and he comes up and panhandles you, and he's a wino crackhead now.
Yeah, yeah. Well, luckily I didn't peak in high school, so hopefully,
You're a little bit of a soccer fan, aren't you?
Massive. It's my
Arsenal.
Yeah. Yeah.
They got whipped the other night, right?
They sure did. Yeah.
Tough game.
Well, luckily I didn't have to watch it because I was doing press at the festival, but
otherwise you would have had to slit your wrists.
Well, standards have been lowered this season, so you just kind of have to.
You're bringing low expectations to the season.
Well, you lose your two best players the week before the season starts. What are you gonna do?
So you're making excuses, basically.
Definitely making excuses.
Performance. When you're out on the road together, do people end up seeing the movie that you made? Are you surprised by it? I mean, obviously it played well at festivals.
Yeah.
And people loved it. But when people like me, once you make something and send it out into the world, it's not really yours anymore. And people put all sorts of trips onto it that weren't really there. Are you stunned by what people make your film? Or?
No, because I made it in a way where, because it's her journey and she's not certain of what's happening to her, there's this construction of the film that allows for interpretation and I mean that in a way where it's like interpretation directly related to her interpretation because she's not certain. So we made it in a way where it's, there's lots of different opinions about what's happening. And so I welcome all of those. I sort of say whatever people feel or got from it is fine.
Right. This summer I saw a couple of movies, Beginners, Tree of Life, that sort of, I don't know, they expanded the vocabulary of film. It's like they were like amazing. And what it made me think about is not how these guys pull it off, but why so many movies are so terrible.
Yeah.
What is it about this incredible medium that is so expressive? Now, let's face it, making a movie is hard. Yeah. Making even a bad movie is hard. They say that, right? Mm-hmm. But why do so many movies turn out to be disappointing? What is it about the way films are made, or the economic pressures, or and you know what I mean?
Yeah, no, I do. I don't know. I always find that films are disappointing when they just fall into a previous idea, and it's like that previous idea is like this false idea that this is what you need to succeed, even though there's examples over and over again of how bad that idea is. You know, so it's like, I don't know, it's just like false ideals about what makes a movie, and I don't know. I don't have an answer.
Well, but you could see your movie in the hands of the notes that you'd get out of Hollywood. Mm-hmm. You need to make her relatable. She's kind of a weirdo.
Right.
You need to warm up the relationship with the sister. They got a hug at the end.
Right.
There's got to be resolution, and it would have distorted and turned it into one more crappy Hollywood movie.
Yeah.
When you guys were in school, did you say there must be a way to make movies that aren't terrible, or?
Yeah, I mean, we just started, like I think a big thing was when we made Buy It Now, which was a film that Antonio wrote and directed, and I shot it, and we used a DVX camera at the time, which was like the, you know, first 24 frame per second digital camera. It was like, right. and then we had one actress, and then it's about a girl who sells her virginity on eBay. And then we had these two older actors that our casting director suggested, and it was like 4 of us in a room with one digital camera doing whatever Antonio felt was the right thing to do to tell this story. And we weren't worrying about anything besides that. And we weren't trying to do anything either. It was just like what he felt, and we followed that. And the film got rejected from every festival we submitted to. We started submitting in September, and by March, we've been rejected by everything in between. And then all of a sudden, after that, we got into Cannes. And we played at the Cine Foundation, and we spent $1,000 on this movie. And every other film now, there's 18 films by film students from all around the world that were spending anywhere between $10,000 and $80,000 on these movies, shooting 35, beautiful photography, and it was just an honor to be there. And then they announcing the prizes, and third prize, second prize, and we're like, oh, this was great. And then they announced that we won, and we couldn't believe it. And it was like this incredible moment where you'd done nothing except focus on the work, told a story that he wanted to tell, done everything just for that and for nothing else with no expectation, and you were rewarded for it. And then that set the standard, and we just followed that, and that's what we've done ever since.
I think that's a great place to start. This is our last Times Talk. I had the privilege of talking both on Friday with some of you all and tonight as well. At the New York Times, we're pretty excited to be out in the world, you know, bringing our brand of sort of journalism and talk. But it wouldn't really work if all of you didn't show up and work through the barrier of language to listen to the likes of me, talk to the likes of him. So we're enormously grateful that you guys came, and thrilled for the opportunity to spend time with both the town and the people of Avilés. Thanks so much.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you for having us. That's it.
Only one website covers the world, like the New York Times. Now continue enjoying our award-winning coverage as a visitor with 20 articles a month, free, or as a subscriber with everything our website has to offer. And with our all-digital access package, you'll get our custom apps for your smartphone and tablet. So subscribe now and get your first 4 weeks for just 99 cents. Go to nytimes.com, get digital. Only one website